Hey there, I'm Jordy, or Lordy, or Lordy Jordy, and I participate with the Gaytriarchy podcast hosted by Prince of Queens. And Prince has been bugging me since I started being part of the show that I should have my own channel and I should make videos so that people can look me up. And so I said, okay, but I'm not really much of a planner and I'm not much of a script writer. So I figured I'm just going to have to do it totally impromptu and see what happens. So I like to do those kinds of things in the morning when I wake up and I'm feeling courageous. So here we are. We're in my room right now, and behind me you can see a couple things that I think are actually pretty important in my life and significant of who I am. Obviously, I'm not hiding my face or trying to obscure my identity. I have no problem showing my face and being identifiable. I have no problem sharing my life that way. I actually honestly support transparency, and for most circumstances, I think I could argue for the benefit of transparency for all. And but that's not really what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about are my experiences as a gay man, and right now as a gay man living in San Francisco, who has differing political views. Let's say I'm not a leftist, and I'm not really a right person either. I'd like to think that I have centrist views, and that I have universal views. So living in San Francisco as someone who most people see as being very right, even though I wouldn't personally identify that way, is interesting, especially as a gay man. And there's a certain culture in San Francisco amongst gay men that's very, very pervasive. And I've lived in a few different urban environments. I've lived in New York City. I've lived in New York City. I've lived in Madrid. I've lived now in San Francisco, and each one of those cities has a really strong gay culture. And I've found that San Francisco is the most conforming and the least diverse. And I don't mean diverse in terms of ethnic diversity, but San Francisco's ideological diversity is low. And especially in the gay community, there's like a certain expectation of the way that I should think, the way that I should dress, the way that I should act as a gay man, especially considering political, economic, social views or whatever. And it's a bit oppressive, to be honest. And it's kind of put me in a category. Everyone here seems to get labeled into some kind of definitive stereotypical category. So I've noticed that, like, trying to go on dates recently with highly affected San Francisco gay men, meaning the ones who really buy into whatever conformist ideology is being pushed around, that tends to be highly leftist, is that I'm not gay enough. Like, I was accused of being bisexual, and I don't know how that even could be considered an accusation, but like, because of the way that I dressed, the talk, the beliefs that I had, the things that I found interesting, the way that I did certain things, that it couldn't be possible that I only liked dick. It must have been that I was also somehow a little bit straight, which was so ridiculous to think that, like, how the fuck does that have to do with sex at all? Like, my political views at all. I mean, honestly. But so it was kind of appalling, and I had to sit there and be like, well, yeah, I guess, I mean, I hang out with, straight guys. I have really, really close friends who are heterosexual men, despite my attempts. And sure, I go to clubs that don't specifically identify as gay, although meaning that, yeah, there are straight people present at the parties that I go to, but there are gay people present there too. And so it becomes very interesting. It was an interesting topic to be like, okay, so I'm being accused of of being bi, or being a closet bi, or discreet or something like that, simply because I didn't buy into the whole uber gay San Francisco ideology. And it was kind of like weird, because at the same time, the guy clearly thought it was really hot. He was like projecting this onto me. I realized as well, he really wanted me to be bi. And I think that was like somehow in his brain the way he could like reconcile the cognitive dissonance of my personality as a man, who happens to be gay as well. And so it was a huge turnoff for me, because obviously, like, it was like some fantasy for him, but I was not really, it was not a consensual fantasy. It was not like, I was like, this is not the kind of fantasy that turns me on. So that was weird. And ultimately I was like, nah, because I'm very like into the intellectual. I can't just like detach my brain and my body. So I was like, no, I'm not interested in you anymore. Like, I'm not attracted to that, I can't just be like, oh well, that's me personally. I know a lot of people don't give a fuck about that, but I do. And it's probably because my Venus is in Gemini, and Geminis are very like, we really value conversation. And in case you're wondering, my sun is in Taurus. So that was funny, and I'm not trying to say that this is every gay guy, look, but in San Francisco, it's a lot of them. And I will say that I did go on a good date recently, and that was with a guy who grew up in San Francisco, but doesn't live here anymore. And we got along great. And I was like, so is it the specific like environment of San Francisco that has a tendency to addle the person's brain? Because it seems to be like I'm having better luck with men who don't actually live here, even if they're from here. So that's good. Do you want to hear a story about another bad date, though? Because this one's really fun, too. This one happened to be that I realized I needed to be more upfront about my political views, because I ended up going on a date with a socialist, a pretty strong socialist, like a socialist party member. And he also really wanted to hook up, probably because I didn't share any of my political views throughout the whole date, and I just like let him talk, basically. And then he really was like super turned on after that point, and like was like groping me on the sidewalk and stuff. And I was like, all right, like, again, I have to connect the brain and the heart and the body. So I was like, I can't just hook up with you right now because you don't really know who I am. And we just spent this whole time talking about like how much you love socialism, which is awesome. I was like, but maybe you should know that I don't really agree with socialism, and my political views are, very much more like centrist, not leftist. I'm not trying to change the entire structure, of the government like socialists want to do, like tear it down and rebuild it. So I was like, I'm not really on that, and I even said to him, I was like, look, and I don't hate Trump. Like, I don't think that he's the worst person in the world. I think that he's has good and bad aspects about him, and I try to keep a fair mind and not be too. I'm just trying not to be radical, I guess. Meaning I'm trying not to like destroy things purposely, like for ideals. Anyways, we got into a huge argument about that. Of course, he just could not reconcile the fact that I didn't hate Trump, and I was like, well, like national security is a real thing. Like people have been taking advantage of this country for a long time. Like we do need strong borders, and we do need strong policies, and we do need to clean these things up. So he was really against that. And of course, the funny thing there is he was so anti-Trump. He was anti-Trump. He was anti-America. He was anti-capitalism. And at the same time, he was not even from here. He like grew up in Italy, or like that region, and traveled all around. And he had to leave because he felt that Southern Europe was not tolerant of his gay lifestyle. So he left his home in Southern Europe because he felt like he couldn't live a healthy, open gay lifestyle. Came to the US, to San Francisco, because he felt like he could live the lifestyle he wanted in San Francisco. He then got a master's and multiple PhDs, all during his time in the US, and yet he still has the balls to say that he hates this country and everything that it stands for. And I'm like, yeah, but you came here because you couldn't even live the way you wanted to live where you're from, and here you've been able to do pretty much what you wanted to do, right? So like that's kind of ridiculous, and he didn't like that line of logic. And I did tell him, I was like, look, you're not even technically from here, so if you think it's such a shitty place and you hate the policy so much and you think it needs to change so much, like maybe you should just leave. And he was really offended when I said that. But that's how I think. Like, why be if you're gonna be such a hater and you're not even from here, like meaning like you don't have the culture and you want to come from outside and demand that things change. It's like, that's not how this works. That's not how it works. No, sorry. That's just being ungrateful. So that date didn't end well. He ended up like calling me ignorant and saying other really rude things, and I was just like, okay, this is why we're not hooking up, so I'm gonna go home now. But it's good. I learned from that lesson just to be way more upfront. Like, don't even let it get to that point. So moral of the story, gay men in San Francisco, whether they're from America or not, seem to be a little bit affected. I'm not even going to put myself above that because I think it's definitely affected me here, which is part of why I'm saying this, because I feel like I've like had to work through some shit being here, but it's made me stronger because I'm like, I will not submit to leftist ideologies. I will not submit to gay conformity. And I've never felt that strongly about these issues before because I never had to. So I guess that's one good thing about San Francisco, how it's helped me. And I have to perfectly admit that I don't intend to stay here. I'm going to be leaving in the next few months. So I'm ready to get out of this energy. I feel like I've gotten what I needed from it. And I've met amazing people here, and a couple of them are my best friends. And we're going to stay best friends, and I think they're going to leave with me. But yeah. So I'm grateful for the Bay Area, but wow, man. There is some kind of like psychological vortex here, and some people get really lost in it. I feel like they lose their objectivity and they get really stuck into groupthink, and I've never seen it this strong before in a city. New York City has diverse ideologies. They have controlling factors. Like there are definitely those who control New York City, and they have certain ideologies, and they're probably not that diverse. But in terms of the people, very diverse ideologies, and they all tend, they have all figured out a way to get along. New York is amazing like that. And when I lived in Madrid, they had just overcome fascism. Only in 1968 was when they got rid of Franco, so they were also very open in their ideologies, in radicalism, but not extremism, and they really had real fascists. And I remember seeing the fascists in Spain too, and fascists actually lived alongside everyone else in modern Spain in 2000 whatever. And that was a beautiful thing to see. Like, it wasn't like there was, because of the politics, whatever. And I'm not saying like Spain's a perfect country. They obviously have their issues, but they were one of the first European countries to legalize marriage. They did it before the US, before a lot of people. They're very tolerant, they're very accepting, and they have diverse ideologies. They have a very colorful history that they've learned from, and they're actually very, very beautiful, loving people. Like, a lot of fun. I had one of the best years of my life living in Madrid. So highly recommended. Highly recommend. Totally different than like what I've heard about Southern Europe in terms of France and Italy. Like, completely different. Yeah, and I lived in Mexico too. And obviously Mexico is very Catholic. So and I was very much like a white person, but like passing, I would be kind of pass as like white Latino, because I spoke Spanish and so I acknowledge those things. But again, in Mexico though, I never really had problems. I went to gay clubs and gay bars, especially in Mexico City, where they legalized gay marriage. I had a boyfriend there. We'd walk around holding hands. Now again, I understand that I had certain probably privilege and protection, so I could do certain things. People weren't going to bug me because of the way that I look. So I acknowledge that too. But still, they had legalized it, and they had the whole gay Zona Rosa, which was clubs and parties, and so it was. I had a great time. And again, I think like it's hard to compare the gay Mexican culture because I was just so far out of it, but there was definitely a sense of joy and fun there because of their like, the Catholics didn't really acknowledge them. That was the biggest thing, but they didn't stop them. There wasn't any gay terrorism. The Catholics, even though they didn't agree necessarily with the lifestyle, they're still loving people, so they would never engage in violence or shaming ever. So it's a totally different kind of attitude in terms of the way that Mexican people practice Catholicism, because they're very, very loving people. Yeah, so San Francisco is just the most disappointing out of like gay communities and cultures. Like, so but like I said, I've learned a lot of things, and I'm ready to go. I'm gonna move home. I'm gonna move to San Diego. San Diego used to be really conservative. It's still really conservative, I guess, but it's evolved a lot. It's evolved a lot in its ideas as well. It used to be a very narrow-minded place, but I feel like I've met so many people, so many interesting, open-minded, awakened, awesome artists who have been moving to San Diego. So there's a strong community that's developed there. And so that's shown me that the city has changed a lot. It's become younger and more hip and more modern, and there's fresh energy that's come from outside to inform it and help it grow. And the music culture there has always been strong. It has a really strong music scene, which is really important to me. So, and it's where I'm from. It's where my family is. I've grown enough as a man to grow from the like, I hate my dad and my mom because I'm gay and it's hard thing that kind of happens to like the angsty new gay. But now I've grown and the world's changed and I've changed, and I'm like, actually, I'm super self-secure now. I'm super happy about who I am as a person, and I have a great relationship with my family, and I'm ready to move home and develop that relationship more. I'm grateful for that. I know not everybody has that opportunity, but I do, and I'm taking it. So I'm ready to like get out of San Francisco, go back to San Diego, where I haven't been in years, really long time, as a new self-secure grown person, and do some new shit and make some music. Yeah, and figure out what the gay culture is down there, and then I can tell you guys more about it in the future. hope you enjoyed my rant for today. Stay cool and post your responses in the comments and shit and your stories of crazy things too. Tell me about your shit. All right? Okay. Much love. Peace out.